Good morning, councillors. Good morning, executive. And good morning to those joining us this morning in the digital gallery. It's my privilege to declare the ordinary meeting of Tuesday, the 20th of July open. And in doing so, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet and also that form the footprint of our great region. And in doing so, I pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend congratulations to them on their continued nurture of their culture. I note a full attendance of councillors and a full attendance of the executive, and no requests for leave to address today. So I move now to item 4, which is prayers, and thank you to Wes Bust from the Kelbar Salvation Army for joining us this morning. Thank you, Wes.
No worries at all. Good to be with you this morning. My prayers this morning will be focused on wisdom and clarity for you each as you make the decisions on behalf of our community. Thank you for all that you do, for the things that people see, the things that people don't see as well, the long hours of preparation for all the stuff at council. So let's pray. Loving God, we come before you this morning and we ask for wisdom for our councillors, wisdom for our executive staff at council as they make decisions to allow our communities to continue to thrive. Lord, we thank you for the rains that we have had in recent days in some parts of our area. We ask that you will continue to provide blessings upon our area, we pray. But Lord, today we pray for clarity for our mayor and for all councillors and for all the executive staff as they make decisions around the future planning and the immediacy of planning as well for our local communities. We pray these things in and through your name. Amen.
Thank you, Wes. Greatly appreciated. I do know you have a busy schedule and will understand if you choose not to continue to join us, but you're always welcome. Look forward to when we can catch up face to face as current restrictions allow.
No worries. Chat soon.
Right. Thank you. Councillors, I turn to item 5 of our agenda today. Are there any declarations of prescribed or declarable conflicts of interest regarding the matters before us today? Silence is no. There are no announcements or mayoral minutes. There's no deputations today, and I've not been notified of any petitions. We move to item 8, the confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Councillors, you've all had access to those minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 6th of July 2021 be adopted. I seek a mover of that. Councillor Enright. Now, are there any questions, councillors, to the minutes? Not. Seek a seconder. Councillor West. Any need to speak? Councillor, anyone seeking leave to speak? If not, we put that motion. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. There is no business before the meeting today arising from the previous minutes. So we move to part 10 of our agenda and we move to item 10.1. And GM, we turn to you for an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors and everybody listening in the digital gallery. This morning, 10.1 is regarding the local economic recovery program funding, another good news story for the council. I have with me the Manager of Customer and Culture, whose team coordinated many offices across the organisation to prepare this grant application for the various projects. So I'd ask Deborah if she would walk us through this report this morning.
Thank you. So the local economic recovery program funding was was funding through QRA, and it was around programs for the recovery during the bushfires of 2019. As part of that program funding, Council worked on a list of projects which were submitted to QRA for the funding. Of those projects that were approved, there were 7 approved and we applied for 13. And you will see on your list of projects what was actually approved for the area. And if you would like to seek any further questions on what those projects or any a little more detail on them, I'm quite happy to take questions around this.
Just before we take questions, Mayor, I might also add this grant enabled other organisations to consider applying and had some significant focus on projects that would be considered national icon or significant projects, and in doing so, Council was able to auspice an application on behalf of Binnaburra Lodge to look at a rebuild of what they lost during the 2019 bushfire. The guidelines stated that if the project was considered nationally significant, we could apply above the upper limit. Through the negotiations with QRA, they also that application for the upper limit was not successful, but they invited us to submit an alternative application and auspice that through Binnaburra. That expression of interest moved to the second phase, and I'm pleased to say that that actual application was also funded as one of the projects within this funding. And that will be delivered and co-funded by Binnaburra. Council has merely auspiced that application.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillors, any points for clarification to the report? Councillor Enright.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the General Manager and the Manager for that introduction. Would it be possible to outline just those 7 successful grant applications, just with a bit more detail, particularly for the digital listeners?
Certainly, Councillor. The first project successful was upgrades to the Vondi Youngman Community Centre. That is a total project cost of $616,009, and the grant provided under this program is $600,009. That is focusing on making the Vondi Youngman safer, more flexible in its usage, more user-friendly for multiple groups already using the facility, and in the event of an emergency, especially in consideration of now COVID restrictions, the community facilities could be used as a place of refuge, which hasn't been possible previously.
Yeah.
The second project
if
is...
I could jump in, could you explain exactly what the $600,000 will be spent on? Do we know that yet?
Deborah probably can give you a closer breakdown on that information.
So one of the major components of this project is removing the water tanks that are under Vondi Youngman. They are presenting a health problem at the moment because it's very mouldy and very musty in under there. So we're actually going to be installing new water tanks to external to the centre and pulling the old ones out. We're also doing some internal upgrades around the kitchen and in the meeting rooms. There's also some facade works happening as well, and also a line with young people backs onto the skate park as well.
Thank you.
The second project, Mayor, to respond to Councillor Enright, is there's upgrades to communities' facilities, again, to enable them to be used as places of refuge. Many of the Scenic Room community halls date back to the early 20th century and require repairs and upgrades to continue to operate as communal spaces. So there's an assessment happening across those facilities at the moment to consider upgrades to roofs, toilet and kitchen renovations, replacement of old furniture, electrical heating and cooling improvements, resealing and repairs to flooring, and improving storage areas and access. as the halls are such valuable assets and places for residents to meet for social, education and cultural activities. They're also important gathering spaces for local communities during and post natural disasters, and so improving the community connectiveness and strengthening resilience against the natural disasters. We saw this as an important project. I won't be able to identify all of the halls today because, and I know that's the next question Councillor McConnell's likely to have asked me. But simply because there is an assessment process that the team is working through and it's almost finalised. So, Deborah's nodding to me. She has finalised that. Would you like to name them then today, Deborah?
Yes, I can
Excellent.
certainly do that. So this is just halls that we use as evacuation centres or places of refuge. So Peak Crossing are getting some storage paths and refurbishment done. Rath Downing needs a stump replacement. Their landing needs fixing. Their disability toilet needs doing, and some kitchen upgrades. Cowbars getting some flooring, fridge and kitchen upgrades. Bow Desert Showgrounds are getting some solar lighting, security cameras, an undercover area, upgrade to hot water and remove of the current toilet block. Canungra Hall is getting air conditioning and power upgrades, a commercial dishwasher and upgrades to toilets, and also Harrisville are getting a new male toilet. So.
Thanks, Deborah. The next project is a Boona Cinema upgrade. Residents would be aware that the Boona Cultural Centre is often used for movies, both in our school holiday programs and for adult movies over Friday and sometimes Saturday evenings. Upgrades to the Boona Centre cinema include sound and vision, which means the quality of that cinema will now be brought up to a higher standard. It's really the only cinema in the region, and it serves as an important social hub, as I said, for both the regional community, and felt that this project fitted well with this funding because it helps the community that has suffered from both drought, fires and isolation to have a place in which they can have some respite, and it also serves as a place of refuge in disaster if need be. Part of this grant is around economic recovery, and so the next project is Achieving Business Development. It's the Scenic Rim Entrepreneurial Hub online program, and this will have the development and delivery of a 12-week online webinar program to business people across the Scenic Rim to overcome barriers in starting and growing their ventures. This regional centred bottom-up approach to capacity building will provide the opportunity to link, share, learn, network and be supported by like-minded business people that may not otherwise be in their current network. The program will also provide participants opportunities to be supported by mentors, coaches and experts. And we've already run some similar projects to this during both the Council's economic stimulus package and other bushfire funding that we have achieved in recent times, and we have seen some great results from businesses participating in that. The fifth project is the refurbishment of Tamborine Mountain Library. There has been some extensive press done on this expansion, even where our federal member announced this in March of this year, and we have finalised now the funding agreement, so we're able to now publicly announce it ourselves. Expansion of the Tamborine Mountain Library, which has been a long-held desire of this council, is now being enabled through the provision of the $2,141,687 for a refurbishment of the building that council has now purchased, known as the former IGA, and further work needs to be done with the community consulting on that expansion and refurbishment, and eventually council will be able to conduct the appropriate community engagement to initiate that project. Item 6 is another business development project under this program, business and industry development through the Scenic Rim Supply Chain Capability Program. This will be a series of workshops delivered under this program that address the needs of local businesses to develop their understanding of and their skills in securing tenders for projects of local, state and national significant work. The program will deliver a long-term economic development legacy by maximising the Scenic Rim local content, so the purchasing of local buying local and participation in major projects and supply chain opportunities. By participating in the program, local suppliers will have be stronger in their submissions, more visible, more competitive, and more able to win work that will benefit both employment growth and income growth within the Scenic Rim. And we've run similar programs to this under previously funded grants, and we're seeing some fantastic outcomes from businesses that have participated in that. And the final program is the number 7, is the Binnaburra Lodge Auspice program. Binnaburra was awarded $500,000. They have a contribution of $47,000, and this will focus on upgrades to the Binnaburra Lodge Tea House, camping facilities and amenities across the site. And that project is initiated and will be a great outcome for Binnaburra to be able to get back on track with providing additional facilities to support their regrowth.
Thank you for those clarifications. Any further points of clarification to this report? If not, GM, catch your breath and I'll ask you to introduce the recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor. Today the recommendation is in 2 parts. Firstly, one, that Council acknowledge the $3,695,205.33 grant funding for the 7 projects approved under the Local Economic Recovery Program administered by the Queensland Reconstruction Authority as detailed below. And since I've given an outline of the projects, Mayor, I won't read the ones listed in the table, but the dollar values are assigned to each of the projects that I mentioned. And that 2, Council acknowledge the funding is jointly provided by the Australian and Queensland governments through the Category D of the Disaster Recovery Funding Arrangements.
Thank you. I seek a mover. Councillor West, any further questions, councillors? Seek a seconder. Councillor McGuinness. Councillor, you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to mention this is a very positive outcome for our community, and it's well spread throughout the Scenic Rim area and for the areas especially that were affected. And I just want to mention Binnaburra Lodge, who have remained so positive through all of their recovery. It's very pleasing to see that they have become part of this and without any council input as such, financial input, but we know that they are a national icon in our area. We're very appreciative of that.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone seeking leave to speak additionally? Councillor McConnell.
Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate the officers for a great outcome here, and also note that over 3/4 of this funding is actually going to Tamborine Mountain. This isn't a one-off, all of a sudden we're going to move our money up there. This is a long-term strategic plan that has resulted in a good outcome for the Tamborine Mountain residents, especially with the new library and the upgrades to the Bondi Youngman Community Centre. So congratulate the officers for getting this funding to help with the people on the mountain. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else seeking leave to speak additionally? I would beg the opportunity to just add in support of the motion before us and acknowledge and express on behalf of the community the appreciation for this funding coming through the disaster recovery funding arrangements in the form of this LERP. Very important part it plays for a region like ours where we have such limited resources, and we have, because we are custodians of some of the most precious resources in southeast Queensland, we also face some of the greatest challenges in that environment to both our infrastructure and to the diversity of our communities. And being able to bring some upgrades to community facilities that have languished because of that limitation on available resources is a great opportunity, and it is only possible because of the recognition of that need in our community, and yes, the great effort of our officers to demonstrate that need in a very well presented way, which is certainly something that we've come a long way in, but also that we've been able to get that response. And I say a thank you to the Australian and Queensland governments for providing that funding in their proportional relationship to that program. So thank you. Councillor West, you wish to close?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, then, councillors, we have a motion before us in two parts. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We move to item 10.2 and GM Asset and Environmental Sustainability, please.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors, executive officers and those listening in online. Item 10.2 deals with another recent a confirmation of council success in or approval of projects under the 2021-2024 South East Queensland Community Stimulus Program funding. The report outlines fairly high level the dollar values as well as the actual projects that were put forward as part of that funding application. It's worth noting, as by the title, it's a 3-year program that will be delivered over those 3 years. It is certainly the officer's intention to certainly look at programming as many of these in the front end of the program. However, it is worth also noting that there are some other projects that may link to some of these that actually will mean that these projects are delivered in year 2 and 3. Also like to acknowledge the state through the Department of State Development and Infrastructure, Local Government and Planning for actually putting forward this stimulus funding for the councils within South East Queensland. I'm happy to go through some of the details behind the broader nature of the projects. So I will start by talking briefly with regard to the Bay Desert Enterprise Precinct Pavement Rehabilitation. There's certainly an aged pavement within as you enter that precinct, and this funding will certainly go towards improving that through at this stage, the pavement design has come up with a asphalt replacement of the pavement that's there to certainly to acknowledge not only those that are already operate within that area, but also acknowledging the increased traffic that will be as a result of the work that is currently undergoing in that precinct. We also have the Brommelton Transfer Station Recycling Bay construction. The reality of it is that there is certainly a need to improve some of the movements out at Brommelton landfill. The reality of this project will be it will actually aid in our resource recovery efforts and make it more convenient for the users of that facility. So that's certainly a welcome upgrade. So it's just not just the recycling bays, but it also will include some access improvements as well. Car park and access driveway upgrades to 2 parks. Those are certainly at Coronation Park in Boona and Selwyn Park in Bay Desert. It is also noted that there are other improvements that are required within those 2 precincts, but it's been noted that there are some issues with regard, in particular with Selwyn Park, around the placement of the brick structure and other things as you enter. It also aligns with what is the work that's currently going on at Selwyn Park with the replacement of the toilet or the public convenience facility there. So it does align with that, as well as provide improved parking facilities for that area. With those of you that may know, the Boona car parking facility is fairly aged, as well as when it does rain, there are drainage issues relating to, which then extends to ponding of water for some length of time. So part of this project is to improve the entrance to that facility, as well as improve the surface and manage the drainage much better than what is currently there. We go on to community and council facility upgrades. There's a fairly long list here. It's over 20 projects this actually relates to. So I will go through very briefly 18 of those projects, or sorry, it might be 17 if those at home actually count as I go through. So we actually got replacement of the roof on Beachmont Old School. You've got improvements to the perimeter fencing at the Desert Nursery, Coralvin Community Centre with upgrading of stage curtains and rigging. The centre at Bow Desert with a new upright piano. Boona Cultural Centre has upgraded to the roofing. There is some issues when heavy rainfall. There is some flooding there, so it's to actually try and rectify as much of that as possible. The Vondi Youngman Community Centre, new stairs for the stage. Boona Sports Complex, replace the air conditioner. This is one of the various. There's selected parks will have picnic shelter upgrades and replacements. Springley Park Barbecue Rotunda. There's some works required on some of the posts and on one of the structures, and some additional concrete works, concrete paving to improve access to that site. But is it cool? There's a number of upgrade requirements there, as well as Tambourine Mountain Pool and Conungra Pool. I won't list off all the minor things, all of those things, but certainly it's around keeping that ongoing service going. Tambourine Mountain Botanic Gardens, they have issues with the effluent tanks, so we're actually going to help with replacing that. Various shade structure upgrades and new shade structures for selected playgrounds. Warranty Park Skate Park, there is some issues with some of the concrete at that site, as well as an improvement to the facility itself. And then the Ref Downey Memorial Grounds will receive a playground upgrade. So within that, that's reasonably comprehensive. So the last item is actually the replacement of the air conditioning facility. So when we go to the report, the $840,000 allocation is actually for the Vondi Youngman Community Centre air conditioning replacement, and upgrade, as well as the Boona Cultural Centre air conditioning replacement and upgrade. They currently have air conditioning units, but they're quite old and don't particularly do a good job when they're required, as well as they're not as efficient as new air conditioning units. So certainly that's that portion of the project. So most of these projects have gone through, or if not all, do appear on our 10-year capital works program, and this funding has certainly allowed us to bring forward some of those projects. So happy to take any questions. If you do want more detail on any of those specific projects, I may not be able to answer them today, but depending on the question.
Thank you, GM. Any points for clarification to the report, councillors? Councillor Swanborough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just ask the General Manager, is there any reason why that list that you just read out couldn't be also included in the minutes, just for information purposes for the community?
I do not see any reason for that to not to occur.
I can clarify that for the councillor that that list is proposed to be released as a part of the media release as well.
Thank you for that clarification. Any additional questions, Councillor West?
Thank you. GM, I was just wondering, I know there was quite a list of items that were put forward with this application. Not all of them were successful. There is 4 actually, which around footpaths and Duck Creek Road and the e-stations, which have been submitted for various grants before. I just wondered if there was any feedback about those as to why they were unsuccessful, and perhaps is there anything else on the horizon that we could apply for again for those particular projects, please?
I'll answer that in 2 parts. The first part is we haven't actually sought feedback at this point in time, but certainly it is part of our process to actually seek feedback from funding bodies as to what may have either improved our application quality or the style or type of projects that actually were successful. The second part to your question is around funding. We are aware that there are some other funding opportunities in the pipeline, and certainly as they come along, we will certainly assess the funding guidelines. Because unfortunately, not all, or fortunately, depending on which way you want to look at it, each funding round has different set of guidelines, and I am aware of one that has been announced by the federal government. We're still waiting on the funding guidelines to actually ascertain whether any of those projects that we've put forward in the contestable round will meet that funding guideline. So I haven't really answered your second question, but yes, we are certainly looking at every opportunity as they arise, but I have that proviso that each funding body has a different set of guidelines attached to them.
Thank you.
Any further points for clarification, councillors? Not GM, I'll ask you to introduce this, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation is that Council acknowledge formal notification from the Queensland Government in response to Council's application under the 2021-2024 South East Queensland Community Stimulus Program, with the projects detailed below approved for funding. Those projects being Desert Enterprise Precinct, Pavement Rehabilitation, 700,000, Bromilton Transfer Station Recycling Bay Construction, 600,000, car park and access driveway upgrades at 2 parks of 1,040,000, community and council facility upgrades 810,000, community and cultural centres air conditioning upgrade 840,000.
Thank you. I seek a mover. Councillor Enright. Any further questions to the report, councillors? I seek a seconder. Councillor McConnell. Councillor Enright, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to speak regarding this fantastic news, and for the benefit of our listeners, this is a fairly new funding stream that commenced last year as a result of COVID incentives, and has then carried on, which was very fortunate for the areas, for the local government areas of South East Queensland, but certainly for the Scenic Rim. This is a significant contribution, almost $4 million over the next 3 years, for the ability for funding many capital works programs that would have been not as quickly delivered through using our own funding. So this provides a great opportunity to deliver enhanced facilities, to deliver some areas like the Desert Enterprise Precinct Pavement facility rehabilitation. I think that provides, is very timely for that estate area that's quickly being developed and expanded. And I think importantly, the Bromilton Transfer Station Recycling Bay construction is also an important enhancement for that facility as we move toward reducing our waste to landfill. So I commend the staff on the efforts that they have provided in enabling this wide-ranging series of projects to be funded under this program, and we look forward to these being delivered out over the next 3 years.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to the motion.
Tell us what your amendment is, councillor.
The amendment is that we put the motion as number 1, and then we add another point 2 to the motion. And the amendment will read that an addendum listing the projects within each approved program category be included in the minutes.
So,
sorry. I don't know, this doesn't seem to be working. Just be included, that be the will. Be included in the minutes. for this item.
Sorry, councillor, I think just for clarity, there are not multiple sub-projects in each area, so perhaps your wording creates a wrong illusion. Ask you to consider that before you table your amendment.
We'll just put where possible, where applicable at the end.
I think that was already agreed by the GM, but I thought that was already agreed, GM. Yep. So, moved by Councillor Swanborough, seconder, Councillor McConnell. Any need to discuss further, Council? Anyone wishing to speak? Put the amendment. Those in favour? That's fine. Thank you. And so now we return. Anyone speaking against the, firstly, Councillor Enright, you're happy to accept that amendment into your motion?
Absolutely, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against? Wishing to speak additionally? I will speak additionally and echo Councillor Enright's comments. It has been a challenge for some time that South East Queensland councils weren't getting access to a grant program similar to this, which has been available to the rest of Queensland. And for a council like ours, as you can see with what's before us today, councillors, this can make a significant difference by dealing with things that sit in our, recognised in our list of needs, but never quite able to make it because of our constraints on funding and the need to deal with higher order priorities. This program gives us an opportunity to bring some of those forward and bring that benefit into community. And I'm grateful that the Queensland government have recognised that oversight and have opened up that access through this particular stream of funding for South East Queensland. It is out to 24, so it may not, won't see all of these projects in year one, but it is good to be able to have the confidence of that to put into our sequencing and planning over that period of time, which will make for more efficient delivery as well. Councillor Enright, do you wish to close?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. There are no other matters on the agenda today, and there are no confidential matters before us today. So with that, councillors, I will declare the meeting closed at, what is it, 9:53. And big good day to the Digital Gallery. Thank you for joining us. And we will hope you will join us on the next occasion, which will be the beginning of August. Thank you. Good day.